participants are requested to turn off your audio and video. Session will begin shortly.
Good morning. Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just want to check whether.
A very good morning to you all. Let's start today's session with a silent prayer. Thank you. It's our extreme pleasure to welcome you all to this wonderful occasion on the final day of online faculty development program on robotics funded by Atal Academy. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome Dr. Jisha VR, the resource person for this session. Dr. Jisha VR joined College of Engineering Trivandrum in 1999 after obtaining BTech in Electrical and Electronics Engineering from Government Engineering College of Trivandrum in 1995. Subsequently, she acquired MTech in Control System from CET and PhD from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore in 2012. She currently working as an associate professor in Electrical Engineering Department, College of Engineering, Trivandrum. She has around 30 publications in international conference and journals to her credit. She is also officiating as a chair in IEEE Robotics and Automation Society, Kerala section, and a member of Board of Governors, Kerala Technological University, and a convener and syllabus committee, BTech Robotics and Automation, Kerala Technological University, and also a member of Board of Studies, BTech Robotic and Automation, St. Kitts College of Engineering. On behalf of organizing committee, I welcome you, ma'am, to the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. And a very warm good morning to one and all attending this session. I hope that by this time you all are experts, all the participants are experts in robotics, because this is the last session of the FDP, maybe the last day of the FDP, right? So I hope that you have the basic understanding of what is kinematics, dynamics, and all, and how to model, how to get a kinematic model for a robot. All those things, hope you know by this time. And with that introduction, I move on to my presentation. Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's start the session, control of robots. So basically, the control comes after the initial studies on modeling of robots. Basically, you know what is you all know basically what is kinematics. What is kinematics? It is actually the analytic study of geometric motion of robotic arm without considering forces and moments, right? And you also know what is dynamics. It's basically the study of motion of robots considering forces and moments, right? So in which context we go for kinematics and which context we go for dynamics, all those things we should know. Because now kinematics we generally use when the robot is moving very slowly, even when it is a robotic manipulator or a mobile robot. When it is moving slowly, we say that we need a kinematic model. Okay, but when the payload is less, we use the kinematic model for control. But sometimes the robot may be moving very fast, and the payload to be manipulated may be very high. So in that situation, we have to definitely stick to dynamic modeling. Okay, so once that modeling part is done, then comes the trajectory planning. So that is basically the path planning, wherein we'll be knowing what all things will be the output from trajectory planning. So if you consider a robotic manipulator, so it will be the position profiles of the joints. So generally we call, the trajectory planning means basically you have the profiles of thetas, right? Suppose if we have a 3 degree of freedom robot, so we say that trajectory planning means we have the profiles of theta 1t, theta 2t, and theta 3t. Okay, so you have these informations for doing a particular task. So that is the meaning. Maybe you have a pick and place task wherein the start point is A and goal point is B. Okay, so this is the end effector has to move like this, and trajectory planning for this task means the end effector should move in this way. What should be the corresponding joint angles theta 1t, theta 2, 3, theta 2t, and theta 3t, provided if it's a 3 degree of freedom robot. Okay, and similarly we have trajectory planning in mobile robots, right? Mobile robots wherein we will be moving the robot from a particular point to the other. So we should know maybe the different points, via points through which the robot should move so that it will reach the destination. Okay. Okay, so this is basically trajectory planning. And mathematical modeling, as I was mentioning, it's the model wherein you know so the relation between input and output of the given robot. Okay, so what we are doing when we are controlling a robot is that we are considering a robot as a dynamic system and proceeding. Okay, so see, the basic definition for robot control problem is that once the nominal trajectory is planned, the problem of issuing commands to the joint actuators that will cause the manipulator to faithfully track or follow the planned trajectory is referred to as a robot control problem. Okay, so if it is a if it is a robotic manipulator, we will be talking like this. But if it is a mobile robot, then also the actuators are the motors which are driving the wheels. So there it will be the wheel actuators. The commands are given to the wheel actuators. Or we can also call it as a problem of issuing commands to the actuators that will cause the robot to faithfully track or follow the planned trajectory. Okay. And see, these kinds of methods like the mathematical modeling as well as the controlling techniques, all these are required only if you wish to make the robot autonomous. Okay. See, sometimes we see that our students are building robot even without using the kinematic model or dynamic model or standard control techniques. But how they proceed is they try to attack that problem or try to find the solution to that problem by trial and error method. So my strong belief is that as engineers, we are not supposed to solve problems by trial and error method. We should have a very good idea how the robot should move and what should be the actual value of join positions at each time, or join the velocities of the mobile robot at each time. So it's like a bridle for say for a horse, how important it is. So can you take that in your hand as an engineer for a robot? Okay, so if you wish to do that, or if you wish to make a robot autonomous, definitely only with the model and this control techniques you will be able to proceed. See, otherwise, no, some situations you don't need an autonomous robot. Okay, depending on the customer requirements, the robot can be autonomous, semi-autonomous, or whatever it is. Only if it is to be made autonomous, you need to go like this, is proceed in this way, like the standard mathematical modeling, trajectory planning, and control. So if you look at the standard design steps for the controller design, so basically we'll start with a mobile robot or a manipulator. We'll try to get the mathematical model. So mathematical model means, as I was mentioning, it is basically giving the relation between the inputs and the outputs. Okay, the inputs and the outputs. Can I get a relation between these two? So for example, so all of us are familiar with a car, right? A car which we all are driving. So if you look at a car, what are the inputs to the car, okay, which we are giving so that we can successfully follow a track in a road? Okay, so what are the inputs we are giving? So we use the accelerator pedal, okay, then we have the brake pedal, right, and then we use the steering. So we say that in a car, these are the inputs. We identify when we take car as a system, the accelerator, the brake pedal, and the steering. So we are changing these three parameters for the car in order to get some x, y, z positions, or x dot, y dot, z dot values. So maybe if it's that is, if we are not considering, see, when the car is moving in gutter and all, we can definitely think that there is going to be these values. But see, we say that these are the inputs and these are the outputs. So can you identify which are the inputs and outputs, so that which are the inputs and outputs to the system, so that you can get a relation between these two, so that the bridle of that car is in your hand, you can make that car autonomous. So in a similar way, you will be able to approach the problem of control of a robotic manipulator or a robot, so that the robot will be able to autonomously move. So the first look is that when you get the model, you need to check whether it is a linear model or a non-linear model. So because if it's a linear model, when we call this a robot model as a linear model or any model, so when it obeys the principle of superposition and homogeneity, we say that it is a linear model, else it is a non-linear model, and then we go for control design, right? Typical, so all of us are aware of a typical closed loop control schematic, wherein the system, so there'll be a system which we are going to control. Okay, so there'll be a controller which is trying to help us achieve the desired objective. So the desired objective will be given here. We'll be having the actual parameters, and we have the sensor, and if the actual output is not matching with the input parameter or the reference, what the controller does is the controller calculates inputs so that the actuator will act accordingly in order to get the desired output variable, right? So see, as far as robotics is concerned, so in the case of robotics, we will be considering instead of this, see, we'll be considering a robotic manipulator or a mobile robot will be considered. Okay, So mobile robot will be considered. See, basically the thing, the one main point I wish to convey is that, see, robotics is an interdisciplinary area, right? Wherein different engineers like mechanical engineers, electrical, electronics, computer science can contribute, right? So it all depends on which area you are working. Okay, there are some people who wish to model the robot using AI techniques and learning methods. If that is the way you wish to proceed, that is also possible. The only thing is that somehow or the other, you should have the input, you should know the input output relations of the robot, or what we call as the model of the robot. So that's the main point I wish to convey. So provided the conditions are that you wish to make the system autonomous, that's the first condition. If you don't want to make your robot autonomous, no need of this. And two, you are not going to use trial and error. Okay, so we are not see, if you are not going to use trial and error, so this, so the, if you need these two things, then see, then you should go for these kinds of control methodologies for control of the robots. So if you consider a robotic manipulator, so if you consider a robotic manipulator, so as in the previous case I was explaining, you will be having the actual values. It will be the joint position and velocities. So you will be having the reference values. So here the reference values are given. So in general, as it is represented as generalized coordinates, the reference will be given as, see, the joint position, joint velocity, and acceleration. So this is a reference given, and you will be having the actual value. And so the reference and the actual value are compared. So you have the sensor to measure that, and actual value will be compared, and the controller will try to actuate the motors which are kept in the manipulator, so that you get the desired output. Okay, so in order to get the desired joint profiles, so you may have to do something else. So that is actually a trajectory planner, which is the outer loop we say. So we'll be giving the desired task specification. So that means the robot has to move from this point to this point. The end effector has to move from this point to this point. That may be the task. So for corresponding to that, the trajectory planner will be computing this. So all these will be functions of time, qt, q dot t, and q double dot t. So if you look at this carefully, depending on the degrees of freedom of the robot, this q will have different dimensions. So if it's 3 degree of freedom robot, it will be q1, q2, q3. Three values will be there, and this also q1 dot, q2 dot, q3 dot will be there. So depending on the robot configurations, the dimensions will vary. So this is a typical block schematic of a robot manipulator control system. And this is the case of a mobile robot, wherein, see, in the case of a mobile robot also, maybe if you try to solve the problem in a very simple way, you can say the decide X and Y positions are the decide. You need to just position the robot at a particular point. From one particular point, you need to reach another point. So if that is the case, you need to check. This is actually the actual position, and this is the reference position. And then the actual values and the reference values are compared. Definitely, you need a sensor for that, for measuring that. And then you compare these two, you will get the error. And the controller will be feeding the right wheel velocity and the left wheel velocity, which are the control inputs to the uh, of the mobile robot. Okay, so you might have done similar problems, maybe because you are interested in robotics. Some of your students might have done this problem. Okay, for examples, for imagine a situation, because nowadays many teams are working in employing robots in hospitals to support COVID affected patients. Suppose if that is a scenario, okay, so and if you wish to make the system autonomous, suppose if it is there is no need of making it autonomous, then you can just make a line follower robot and it will work. But suppose if you wish to make the robot autonomous, suppose if this is the starting point for the robot, okay, the robot has to start from here, starting point is here, and the robot has to move, see, suppose this is room A, maybe this is the room A, this is room B, there are so many rooms, okay. Okay, so I'm just marking this is A, this is B. The robot has to stop at all these points till maybe this may be a corridor. So up to J, the rooms are there and the robot has to move like this. Okay, so what it has to do? So suppose given this problem to you, maybe some nearby hospitals, some hospitals, the doctors from hospitals nearby your institution approaches you and ask you to design a robot like this. How will you approach this problem? So the easiest way will be to design a line follower robot so that always it will be moving like that. But suppose if you wish to make it autonomous, how will we do that? Generally, how do we do that? Maybe see what I have seen among BTech students is that what they'll do is they'll drive the motor. There are see the easiest robot to make is a differential drive robot, right? So we have two wheels and there'll be a caster wheel, and these two wheels will be driven by two DC motors. Okay, so that's the basic configuration. So I think I have I have a picture of that maybe in later slides. So suppose if the robot has to move forward, these two motors will be moving at the same speed, and if it has to take a left turn, this speed will be lesser and this will be more, and if it has to take a right turn, this speed will be less and this speed will be more. Okay, so you can take a turn, move forward or backward, whatever is required. So that's the easiest configuration which anyone can make, which we call as a differential driven configuration, right? So generally what we do is, okay, what students, what I've seen is they trial and error, how much time the motor should be moved from this point to this point. Okay, so what they do is they set a time, okay, some seconds, maybe 3 seconds or 4 seconds, and up to that time it should move these two motors should move at a particular RPM, maybe 500 RPM or so. It will be fixed like that. And then what they do is from A to B, if it has to move some other, maybe 1 second, it will they will fix and it will be driven at this point. Okay, so in that way, the time will be fixed, and then the robot will be asked to, or by trial and error, they'll check whether, okay, in 3 seconds, if I drive, whether it will be reaching this, this, and this, like that, they'll proceed. But is that the way to attack that problem or solve that problem as an engineer? I don't think so. So what we need to do is, see, autonomously, it should move to all these points, right? So autonomously, it should calculate what should be the left wheel and right wheel velocities so that it is reaching the destination. So suppose if you wish to solve this problem as a or if you wish to design a controller for this one, what we have to do is we need to design a controller so that we can find what is the left wheel velocity and what is the right wheel velocity at each instance of time, so that we have everything in our hand. Everything is under our control. It is not a trial and error, and the robot will automatically move from this point to this point. But still there are other challenges, like because in indoor navigation, when the robot is in indoor environments, the task of finding the answer to the question, where am I, is very, very challenging. Because we cannot use GPS sensors in indoor environments. See, GPS sensors you can use only in outdoor environments mainly, and the resolution of the sensor may be a 2 meter or so. So maybe suppose if you are sitting, say you are in suppose if you consider the place where you are sitting currently, okay, so the place where your chair is there, and maybe 1 meter apart from that point That is at these 2 points, if you are using GPS sensor for taking the readings, that will be showing the same readings. And so sometimes the entire room, the GPS reading will be the same. So you cannot rely on GPS for indoor navigation. So what you have to do is, we have to rely on odometry, or what is referred to as wheel encoders for getting the readings of the position. Where am I? Answer to the question, where am I? But odometry also fails. See, when this fails, see, as I was mentioning, when we set, they say that the motor should run for 3 seconds. What happens is, sometimes the motor will move. The motor will be rotating. Okay, the motor will be rotating, but the vehicle will not be moving forward. Why? Suppose if you have a tiled room, okay, or one with granite and all, so there's a possibility that the robot will slip, right? So the motor will be moving, but the position of the robot will not be updated, right? So you need to have mechanisms in which the positions can be updated. So if it is a very short distance, you can rely on odometry or wheel encoders, but the distance is more, you need to use other mechanisms in order to correct the position, because as the distance traveled increases, the error will be accumulating, and you cannot simply rely on odometry for it. So what we have to do is, maybe you have to use RFID tags in between to correct the positions, or you may have to use radio beacons to correct, or there are different mechanisms in which you will be able to correct the position. So basically we can rely on odometry for knowing the answer to the question, where am I? But not for long distance paths. Okay, so basically I was referring to a practical example wherein see, these kinds of control plays a very important role. So you don't have to solve that problem as a using trial and error method. Okay, see, suppose, how about this? Suppose you need to design a manipulator so that it moves through a path like this. So many a times we see that our students are working on projects, or they are building manipulators, but what happens? They are not able to move the robot through desired points like this. The reason may be that they have not tried or used the kinematic model. Just by trial and error they try to design the robot. So that may be the reason, but that should not be the case, right? So suppose you have a specific pick and place task like this, and this is a fixed point and this is another fixed point. You cannot vary, right? So definitely you have to use the standard kinematic models. Then only you will be able to know what is the workspace, whether I can keep the object at the desired location. So all those things can be known only if you try to design controllers based on the model. So what I am trying to explain is the importance of knowing the input output relations or mathematical model, and then designing the controller rather than a trial and error. And as engineers or as students, maybe when we were students also, we tried to design line followers like this. So have you ever imagined a robot following a path without drawing a line? That means a straight line or circular path. It is possible, provided you have the input-output relations of the robot, and then you try to design a controller for the same. So I'll just show you an experiment which my BTech students do. So this is an experiment done by BTech students. See, there is no line. You cannot see a line which is drawn, a circle which is drawn there, but you could see that the robot is moving in a circle, right? So how to achieve this? So can you do this? So suppose maybe people try to solve this problem using trial and error method. But suppose when we wish to increase the radius, change the center of the circle in which the robot has to travel. So all these things now, infinite times you cannot do trial and error. So if you have these input output relations, and if you can design a suitable controller, you will be able to achieve tasks like this. So maybe if the robot is actually is an office assistant, used as an office assistant or so, see, you cannot have line drawn everywhere so that the robot can move through that, right? It should autonomously navigate and go to different staff rooms or office rooms, right? So you might have seen robots moving like that. So you need to make it autonomous, and then only robots should be moved forward. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a very simple example of controlling a mobile robot, because this is the easiest way in which I'll be able to convey the importance of doing or taking the input output relations or mathematical model of the robot, and then trying to design a controller and trying to make it autonomous. Okay, so so if you can understand the concept of this, so based on this you will be able to work with a complex model as well. So what I'm going to explain now is the control of a differentially driven mobile robot. So if you look at this robot, you could see there are two wheels for this mobile robot, but we know that if you use only two wheels, there will be some balancing problems. So what we do is we will be providing a caster wheel at the front, which acts as a support that is, it won't topple. Okay, so if that is the situation, how to model this robot? Okay, so I told you that if you have to make a robot autonomous, we should have an input output relation. But that input output relation should not be a complex equation with so many variables and 24 degrees of freedom and all. No, but you start with a very simple model, try to work on that, and then incorporate other effects and then proceed. So that's the easiest way to proceed. So I have taken a very simple example so that all of us will be able to follow the same. So suppose, so in this case, the solution is done, or the modeling is done based on the assumption that the robot is a point object. Okay, the robot is assumed as a point object, and it is assumed that the robot is moving with a linear velocity v and angular velocity omega. So what is the meaning of linear velocity and angular velocity? So we know that, see, when our car is moving forward alone, it will be having linear velocity alone. But if our car is taking a turn, definitely it will be having linear velocity and angular velocity, right? So definitely for moving through any path, the robot should have a linear as well as the angular velocity like this. And we assume that the heading angle of the robot is theta. So heading angle means the steering of a car. You can just imagine the steering angle of a car. So just imagine a point object. We assume this as a point object with linear and angular velocity with a heading angle theta. So suppose if I assume a reference frame, okay, in this, see, this is a robot frame. So if outside this, if I can just share or choose a reference frame like this, what will be rate of change of x? So rate of change of x, that means x dot will be equal to, so it is moving at v, right? So the horizontal component of this will be v cos theta. And what will be the y component? So we can say rate of change of y will be equal to v sine theta. And rate of change of heading angle will be equal to, that is theta dot will be equal to omega. Okay, so this is a very, very simple relation which gives the input output relations of a mobile robot. So you don't have to start with a very complex model. So if you look at this, you got the input output relations of the robot. The only thing is that, you need to identify. So once you get this model, so we basically, the control engineers say that this is basically the state space model of a robot. We call this as a state space model. with 3 states. Okay. So it is very important to look at the model and check which are the inputs, which are the outputs. Okay, so if you look at this model, the inputs are linear velocity and angular velocity. So if you choose this model, the bridle in your hand are linear velocity and angular velocity. And what is, which are the outputs? So I may require the x, y, and theta. So see, I have to reach a particular destination, right? So x, I may have to reach x star, y star, and theta star. So that can be chosen as the output, and v and omega can be chosen as the input. So I got the input output relations for this simple robot, so that I'll be able to design a very good controller, and will be able to do the desired task without trial and error. But unfortunately, if you look at this model, see, see, when we take a robot in our hand, a differential drive robot, what we can directly control is this right wheel velocity, see, which we call as omega r, and left wheel velocity, right? So this is just a linear velocity and angular. So definitely we know that if you know the linear velocity and angular velocity of the vehicle, we can find what is omega L and omega R. There is a relation, right? So, it is directly given by the relation. Linear velocity of the vehicle is actually r by 2. R means the radius of the wheel divided by 2 into omega r plus omega L. So that is, we say that the linear velocity is proportional to sum of these two velocities, and the angular velocity is proportional to difference in these two velocities. And D is actually the wheel base. Okay, sorry. D is the wheel base, we say. Wheel base means the distance between these two wheels. So that's the wheel base. And if you know these parameters, you have this relation. So when we substitute that this V and omega using this relation, what we are getting? So in terms of omega R, the right wheel velocity and left wheel velocity, we are able to represent this equation. So, and what we are getting finally in this case, so this is the final model which we are going to choose. So we say that the input variables are omega r and omega L, and then the output variables are x, y, theta. So I got this, and now what I need to do is just find what is right wheel velocity and left wheel velocity at each point of time, so that I can drive this robot to desired destination or desired path. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to explain very complex controllers. I'm going to just explain a very simple controller which will be able to do very simple tasks, okay, which can be extended to realistic applications also. Suppose if the robot has to be moved to a point. Okay, so if we use a very simple proportional controller, that task can be achieved. How that can be done? Okay, so I told you that if you look at this equation, the bridle in our hand are right wheel velocity and left wheel velocity. So each and every, so suppose the robot has to reach a destination xg, yg. Okay, and the robot is currently at xy. Okay, so at each instant of time, I need to know what is omega r and omega L. But see, this, I got the expression for this from the basic equation containing V and omega. So we'll start from this, so that ultimately we can extract what is omega r and omega L. See, this is directly V expression for V and omega in terms of this. In a reverse way, you will be able to find omega r and omega L from V and omega also. So what we'll do is, instead of this, what we do is we work with this itself. So if that is the situation, in order to reach the destination, what should be the linear velocity and what should be the angular velocity at each and every point of time, we need to calculate, and we need to give the same to the robot. See, for example, the linear velocity is taken as, see, this is x minus xg. What is that? See, xg means the goal, x coordinate of the goal location. X means current x coordinate. So this is actually the error in x, and this is error in y. So we have error in x the whole square plus error in y the whole square because we need to consider positive and negative errors. So that's why square is taken and then square root is taken. So it's actually the total position error. Okay, so that is multiplied by a constant. So linear velocity is chosen as proportional to position error. And angular velocity is chosen as some proportionality constant into theta star minus theta. So theta star means it is the desired desired heading angle. What is a desired heading angle? I think I have not included that. What is a desired heading angle? See, suppose if it is theta, this is xg, yg. The robot is currently location at this point. So this angle we call as theta star. Okay. So this angle will be referred to as theta star. So at each and every instant of time, we say that theta star is equal to what? Tan inverse of tan inverse. So this angle we will be getting as tan inverse of y component by x component. Okay. Or at each instant of time, you need to take tan inverse y minus yg divided by x minus xg. In this way, you will be able to calculate what is theta star and what is the current theta. Okay. So if you feed or choose angular velocity in such a way that it is proportional to the difference in actual heading angle and the current heading angle, what happens is the robot will be reaching the destination. So this is actually a block schematic which I took from Peter Cork's textbook. So this is a block schematic wherein you can see that there is a standard goal location, and this is actually a robot. So it can be considered as linear velocity and steering angle, or you can consider as v and omega also, then also it will work. The only thing is that you need to take the corresponding model inside. So it is basically, as I was mentioning, this is a position error. This is the steering angle. So we have the position error, how this is the actual value. Actual x and y is coming from here. This is a reference actual. The error is coming and you will get the position error. Theta star, and this is actual theta. The difference is taken. So what it does is see, whenever we are doing robotic problems, mobile robotic problems, we need to make sure that the angle lies between minus pi and plus pi. So there's a possibility that angle can be like 360, 720, more than that, right? So this will make sure that it lies between minus pi and plus pi. So see, if you use this method, what you will get is whatever be the initial position of the robot will be able to reach the destination. So what I was mentioning related to the robot for helping or employed in COVID ward, we can use a similar kind of algorithm where the left wheel or v and omega, if we are getting from that, we can find left and right wheel velocity so that we'll be able to reach the destination. Okay, so the same problem I'll just show you, which I have done in MATLAB. Moving to point, can you see the MATLAB screen? Okay, so if you okay, I'll run this. So here what I have done is, see, I have taken the initial position as 0, 1 of the robot, and I have taken 5. Can you see the graph now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So see it is reaching the destination 5, 5. So even if you change, see, I have given 0, 1, pi by 3 as the, that is pi by 3 as the orientation. So if you look at this, see 0, 1, pi by 3. So if I take 1, 1, let's see, we'll just check how. Maybe another color I'll take. See, from a different location also it is moving. So in the COVID ward case also, if you have different locations like this, you have point A, B like that, no, or you will be able to use the same method for that case also. Okay, so the consolidated results are shown actually here, wherein you can see that from any location the robot is able to move to the desired location. So here the destination is chosen as 5, 5. Okay, so there is no need of trial and error, right? You just give left and right to find the value of left wheel and right wheel velocities from this equation. And then you press at each and every instant of time, feed that value to the robot so that it will autonomously reach the destination without trial and error. So next task is following a line. Okay. So why I am taking these, maybe some people may be thinking, okay, this is something trivial. Why should we do that? But why? Sorry. Okay, why I am explaining this is that because see, if you can move a robot to a point, okay, moving to point, and if you can follow a line and if you can follow a circle, so any task, any trajectory following task will be a combination of all these things. Okay, so if we can independently do all these things, any realistic path is going to be a combination of all these things, right? Okay, so that's why I'm just explaining this simple problem. So the realistic scenario will be combination of all these. So if the robot has to follow a line, so all of us are aware of a line follower robot where the line is drawn and over which the robot is moving. So just imagine a line virtually drawn in front of you parallel to your table, and you ask the robot you build to follow that line. How to achieve that? Generally what we do is trial and error, but that's not the case. What we need to do is just choose this model, and intelligently find what should be V and omega so that I can follow that line which is drawn parallel to my table. Okay, so or wherever you are drawing, okay, without that line physically drawn, whether I'm able to draw that or follow that line. So for that case, what generally, how do we represent a line? Line is represented as y is equal to mx plus c. So instead of that, you can also write a line as ax plus by plus c equal to 0. And what we have to do is we need to suppose if the robot position is this, okay, and the line to be followed is maybe somewhat like this. So what the robot should do is it should try to reduce the distance, normal distance to, or this distance should be, it should try to reduce that, right? So that is what is done here. One controller steers the robot to minimize robot normal distance from the line, which according to that distance is given by this relation. So all of us know the distance between, sorry. So how to find the distance between these 2 points? So that is from where the robot is there and the point in the line. So in case of a line in the plane given by equation ax plus by equals 0, where a, b, c are real constants, the distance from the line to a point x0, y0. So that's what. So we have the line here and the robot here. Okay, so you need to find this distance. What is the perpendicular distance, normal distance you need to find. So that is given by, suppose if the robot positions x0, y0, at each point you know what is x and y value of the robot, then you can find the distance in this way using the standard relation. And what we do is we will try to find a component which is proportional to this distance. Okay, so we should try to reduce this distance, right? This distance we should try to reduce. Okay, simple logic. So you need to use one term like this. Another one is this is actually trying to reduce the distance. Another one is it should turn towards this direction, right? So that is achieved by using the theta star, or the reference steering angle, as equal to tan inverse A by B. So that is if you have y equal to mx plus c line, so we know slope is m. So if you have ax plus by plus c equal to 0 is the line, then we have a by b, minus a by b is m, okay, slope. So that is taken as the desired steering angle. So we will be finding the angular velocity will be chosen in such a way that it is proportional to, it tries to reduce this distance and the difference in steering angle. And but see, this is only the angular velocity, right? But the linear velocity can be chosen as a fixed value, and angular velocity can be given like this, so that the robot will turn towards that line and it will be following that line. So this is actually typical block diagram. So distance from line is calculated, the slope of the line is calculated, and the controller will try to, it's a very simple control. See, the linear velocity is chosen as 1 and angular velocity is chosen using this expression. So if that is the case, see, if we have A, B, C as 1, minus 2, 4, we have the straight line like this. And suppose the initial position of the robot is 8, 5, pi by 2. So that means suppose 8, 5, pi by 2. So the orientation is like this. You could see the direction of angle. Sorry, the mobile robot heading angle is like this. And it will be following the line in this way. Okay, so wherever you draw a line, it's just a matter of finding what is A, B, C values, and then you give what is the initial pose of the robot, so that the robot will be following that line. So I was showing the simulation of that as well. See, line is chosen, and this is the initial position of the robot, and the robot is able to follow the path. So see, basically for initial testing and all, MATLAB is the best. See, for understanding of algorithm, MATLAB is the best option. So once you are comfortable with that, you can switch on to realistic processors to implement the same. So it's just a matter of giving. So suppose if you wish to implement this particular controller using in a hardware, okay. So how this will work? So we have this, what it gives us, v is equal to 1 and omega is given by this expression, right? So at each and every instant of time, you need to know what is x, what is y, what is theta. So you need to use sensors, encoders to find what is x, y, theta. And if you have x and y current values, so for using this relation, so we have a value, x, b value, c value. You have x and y also at each and every point. So at each and every point, you can compute d, right? You need to take sensor feedback. So at each and every point, you take sensor feedback, you know, x and x, y, theta, you compute d. Then you have omega, you can compute what is kd into d, and also you find what is kh into theta. So at each and every instant of time, you can find that, so that you will get the value of omega. So you got the value of v and omega. From this, you find for each sampling instant, you find what is omega r and what is omega L. Okay, so in the next program, you drive. So you have, so for different controllers, the command will be, so drive for maybe motor 1, right? Motor 1 at, see, omega r you got, so that value, omega r value. Okay, so and drive motor 2 at omega L. So in this way, this for basic understanding, definitely this will be helping. Okay. And similarly, the more realistic case is following a path. Following a path means a curved path. Okay, so as I was mentioning, or a circle. So if you can just move to a point, if you can just solve the basic problems like moving to a point, following a line and following a path, so you'll be able to follow any complex path. Okay, it's just a matter of representing that path. Okay, how do you represent a path? So that is very important. For example, if you are moving through a line, so what you need to do is just imagine you are moving in a car. You're driving your car and taking a circle. Okay, so if that is the situation, what will be x of t and y of t profiles? So this is in xy plane, in a ground. Your car is taking a circle, so you should know what is xt profile and what is yt profile. So the reference profiles you should have an understanding. So reference is taken as, see, generally if the car has to take a circular path, what you can take is, you can just take sine t and cos t as the reference. You will be getting a circle with 0, 0 as center and 1 meter as radius. If you wish to change the center to 2, 2, what you need to do is 2 plus, like that you can give the reference. If you wish to change the radius to 2 meter, just a matter of giving 2 here also. So by properly choosing the reference trajectory xrt and yrt, you will be able to get the desired trajectories. Okay. So following a path problem can be solved in a similar way as the moving to point problem. The only thing is that instead of the constancy in the previous problem, what we have given is xg was given as 5 and yg was given as 5. Instead of that, for following a path, suppose if it's a circle of radius 1 meter, what you need to do is you need to give xg as equal to sine t and yg as equal to cos t. It's just a matter of changing that so that it will be following a circle. Okay, so you could see the circle is being followed. I think we don't have much time, so I'm not showing the simulation. And now, any quick doubts anyone is having? Okay, so now I move on to the control of manipulator part, wherein see, suppose you have a robotic manipulator, which is a two-link manipulator, and the robot end effector has to move in a straight line. So if that is the case, there are different ways in which we can solve this problem. This is one of the ways in which the problem can be solved. See, this end effector has to move in a straight line. That's the condition. So if that is the case, in resolved motion control, what we do is we choose the Cartesian velocity as v. So that means end effector velocity as v, and convert that to required joint velocity using this Jacobian. So you might have studied that in previous sessions, how to get this. If you have the end effector velocity, how to get the joint velocity, that's by using the Jacobian matrix. You may be knowing how to find that. So at each instance of time, you need to compute that so that you will be able to move the robot in a desired way. So you need to move the joints at that speed. At each point, the q will be changing. So that means q means theta. Okay, joint angles will be changing. So we need to update the Jacobian, and the process is repeated. For example, you might have done problems using 2R manipulator, which is a planar manipulator, very simple manipulator. So if that is the case, you might have done the forward kinematic model, right? That also you might have computed, which is actually a 4x4 matrix using DH convention. When you solve that, we have the rotation matrix and the translation matrix, the position information, rotation information. And from that, you can get the Jacobian from this position expression. So what you need to do is, first you need to differentiate. So this is actually theta 1 and theta 2. First you differentiate with respect to theta 1. So when you differentiate with respect to theta 1, you will get like this. When you differentiate with respect to theta 2, you will get this. And when you differentiate this one with respect to theta 1, we will get this. When you differentiate with respect to theta 2, you will get. So you will get the Jacobian for this. And once you get that, it's just a matter of computing the joint velocity at each instant of time so that the robot end effector will be moving at the desired velocity v. Okay, so this is one way of solving the what um, uh, this problem wherein the end effector has to move at a particular velocity. Okay, and another famous problem which we will be studying. One second. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Another famous control technique that is used in manipulators is a computer torque control. So basically, it takes so much time to cover all these control methods. So basically, when we take up the robot model, suppose if you assume that each joint is moving one at a time, okay, one at a time, then we can use that is what is called a single axis uh, PID control. So single axis PID control we use if one joint is moving at a time and the robots are moving very slowly. So what we can do is for corresponding to each joint, we can use a PID controller. So in that case, what we do is, we assume that, so in a single axis PID controller, what is being done is, just imagine a single link robot. Okay, in a single link robot, what is basically done? So for example, I'll just show you. For example, suppose your hand and you have a motor at this point. Okay, so if you can consider this link as a load to this motor. Okay, and you just use a PID controller to control this motor, which is at this elbow, and this link will be acting as a load to that. Okay, so if that is the case, you can use a very simple PID controller for controlling the same. Okay, but always know, we cannot say that the robot will be moving very slowly, one joint at a time. So if that is the case, what we have to do is we have to take the complete model, dynamic model of the robot, which is actually generally given as tau is equal to dq q double dot plus c q q dot plus hq plus bq, where this is actually the inertial forces, and this is the Coriolis and centrifugal forces, and this is a gravity force component, and this is the friction component. So I hope that you know the dynamic modeling part, and you are aware of this model. Basically, suppose in the COVID,
Ma'am, your mic is muted.
okay, sorry. So if the suppose consider the case where the of COVID robot, that is a robot in for helping COVID affected patients. So if that robot also, if the payload taken by the robot is very small, then as I was mentioning, the left wheel velocity and right wheel velocity can be given. But suppose if it is taking food, it is delivering food to the patients. Okay, so there are some 20-50 patients, so the payload taken will be more. So if that is the case, you need to give TOW1 and TOW2 as the control inputs to the robot motor. Okay, so in that case, we have to use this model or this dynamic model. So if that is the dynamic model, so if you rearrange this, see, if you take this expression, q dot is taken to left hand side and tau is taken to right hand side, we can get a model like this, where q double dot, which is acceleration in terms of these components. So you will be able to represent that. So this is actually a second order differential equation, so that you will be able to get the what state space model for the same in this way. So it's just a matter of, if you look at these two equations, it's very simple, straightforward. You can see that it is a tau minus CQ Q dot. So this is tau coming in, CQ Q dot is coming from here, HQ is coming from here, and VQ dot is coming from here. So tau minus all these terms are coming here. So there's a mistake actually. So it should be minus. So all these are coming in minus, right? So this plus minus issue. So all these are subtracted, and it is multiplied by D inverse, so that you will get Q double dot. Once integrated, you will get Q dot, again integrate that, you will get Q. So it's just a state space model of a robotic arm. So the speciality of computer torque control is that it makes use of the complete dynamic model to cancel out all the non-linearities, like the effects of gravity, the Coriolis and centrifugal force and friction force. So what is being done is, when you consider this robot, so this is the robotic model which we are considering. Okay, so if that is the case, if you intelligently choose tau, just imagine that COVID, the robot, which we are talking about, the robot for supporting COVID patients, and payload is high, just choose tau in such a way that these are cancelled. Sorry, not that, these terms are cancelled. So intelligently choosing tau in order to cancel these, and you can also enforce desired dynamics as well. So that controller is basically called a computer torque controller. So what it does is, we have the terms like DQ, C. So all these nonlinear terms we have, which are called, D is called a manipulatory inertia tensor. So that's the inertial forces causing component. So we have C, which is Coriolis and centrifugal force vector. So what we do is, we need to have the estimates of these parameters. So we need to have estimates of D, C, H, and B. See, all these are functions of Q, but you need to have values of all these. So what we do is, we assume, based on the previous that is experience, we have the standard equation also. So we'll have the estimates of D, C, H like this. And based on these D tilde, C tilde, H tilde, and B tilde, we try to realize a controller. Okay, so what happens is, the estimates we assume may be slightly different from the actual value. So that difference is given by this delta D, delta C, and delta H. Okay, so these are, so what it does is, see, as I was telling you, we choose this torque intelligently, so that these terms can be cancelled, and desired dynamics can be enforced. So that you can see here, see, the torque term is taken as H tilde Q. See, this is actually the gravity term, Coriolis and centrifugal force term, friction term. So all these terms are taken as plus. So what happens is, when you substitute that here, all these terms will get cancelled. Okay, so then the remaining part will be, this is actually a kind of PD controller, plus R double dot is given in order to get an anticipatory action, because so that this will be enforcing desired dynamics to the system. So what happens is, this will cancel the nonlinearities, this will enforce desired dynamics, so that the manipulator will be able to move successfully from A to B, or it will be able to follow the task as required. So the main attraction is, see, one more extra part is R double dot, which helps in anticipatory action, because generally when we give R, see, suppose the reference trajectory is like this. So if you give R dot or R double dot, you have an idea of what the future is going to be, how the R is changing. That indication you will be getting from these value. So that is why R dot is given, and this will help in better tracking when the robot is moving fast. Okay, so so what finally happens is you have a block diagram like this, where this is a robotic arm. Okay, this is a robotic arm which is having nonlinear parameters and all. So this will, these terms are added to this because, and so because of this, these terms, the non-linearities are cancelled, and because of this, what the desired dynamics is enforced, so that the desired task or path can be tracked by this robot if you use this non-linear. So that's what is written here. The right half attempts to cancel the undecided nonlinear dynamics, and the left half inserts desired linear dynamics. So it's not a simple diagram. So once you have a basic understanding of all these, it is easy to follow. And there are linear as well as non-linear control schemes. So what you have to do is, suppose if you wish to make a robot autonomous, what you need to just do is, okay, try to get a very simple input-output relations. You need not take a very complex model for getting that, and then check whether it is a linear model or a non-linear model. So definitely when we try to model the robot, you can see that the robots are in general non-linear models. So what we do is we'll try to linearize that model. So we have methods to linearize that. And if we can linearize that, we can use PPI and PID controllers or state feedback controllers. And optimal control methods can be used for linear models as well as non-linear models. So you'll be able to compute the best control values, maybe the best linear and angular velocities in case of mobile robots, or the best the angular velocities or position profiles for servo motors you're using for the robotic arms. And if the models you are getting are non-linear in nature, we have plenty of methods like computer torque control, feedback linearization. So there are different ways in which you will be able to do that. So I'm not, see, maybe if you belong to control, if your background is controls, you can work with all these things. But generally, yes, Professor Sahil Kulkarni has raised hand. Any doubts? Okay, so you will be able to choose the controllers depending on the model you are getting, but always start with a very simple model and try to make it autonomous, and then try to incorporate other components so that you will be able to work comfortably with that robot. Okay, so so I'm going to conclude. See, basically, robots are dynamic systems generally represented as nonlinear models. So you may have to sometimes know if it is not moving fast and all, we can use even linear methods, so which I have explained using the basic control method, which is a PI control, P controller itself. But based on the requirements, you can choose the kinematic or dynamic model. So if payload is more, go for the dynamic models. Otherwise, kinematic models are fine. And then once you get that model, need to identify which are control variables, which are state variables and output variables. And depending on the model, suitable controllers can be designed to make the system autonomous. Okay. So I had to rush, but thank you all for patient listening. And if you are having any doubts.
Thank you, ma'am. If the participants have any queries, you can either type in the chat box or you can unmute and ask her. Shahil, sir, you can
Question.
question. What kind of other controllers we can use for robots?
Other controllers means I have shared a slide, right? Any linear controller or non-linear controller, depending on the model, we can use as I was sharing in that slide. I'll show you. See, any of these controllers you can use. So there are the list is not complete. We have sliding mode control or any technique you can use, and we have nowadays people are working on AI based methods for the control of robots. The only thing is that try to get the input output relations and work on that. Many a times what I have seen is that people are downloading some algorithms from um, some websites and trying to implement that without knowing what is happening in between. So mainly people who are working in ROS and all. So it's a ROS is actually a very powerful platform, and Gazebo and all, wherein the physics can be incorporated. So try to understand the physics behind that and try to work on that. So instead of downloading standard program from somewhere and working on that, based on the model, try to use at least some of the standard controllers so that it will work perfectly. And anything else? Advice on books that are good. Okay. For control, see many of the topics which I covered today are taken from Peter Cork's textbook. You may be aware of that. So Peter Cork, I'll just, he has actually shared in his website toolbox also, where you can practice all these sample algorithms of control problems. It's a very good book you can refer to. And standard robotic books you can follow are that of Schilling, Mittal, Craig, Saha. So there are a lot of books which you can refer to for basics. Thank you. PPT I have shared with the coordinator. Hope you will be getting from her.
If there are no more queries, then we can move to the conclusion. So honorable speaker, Disha ma'am, and dear participants, in this session, we have going through very informative and fruitful session on control of robotics. I am sure that each one of us was taken through different dimensions of robotic control problems, such as line following, resolved motion control, computed torque control, etc. On behalf of entire team, I take this opportunity to thank Disha ma'am for being with us and enriching us with the various aspects of robotic control. Thank you, Disha ma'am. It was a very effective and fruitful session. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to all the participants for your coordination. Hope you had all had an enthusiastic session. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, ma'am.
Professor Deepak, for the nice words. Thank you all for the patient listening. Thank you.
Okay, next our next session will be at 11:30. Thank you once again for all the participants.